it's Sierra. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today is a very special day. We're celebrating 500 subscribers on YouTube. That's amazing. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for your continued support. It means so much to me. And so I wanted to celebrate by recording a story time video for you guys. I am recording this on my laptop, so there may be moments where I move around or whatever, but yeah, I wanted to give you guys a kind of chatty story time video in honor of 500 subscribers. So I'm going to be sharing with you guys my ayahuasca or yahe story. So, where to begin? First of all, for those of you who are not familiar, ayahuasca is a plant-based, it is a plant medicine that comes in the form of an herbal tea, and it is commonly used by shaman and indigenous peoples from the Amazon. It is a powerful hallucinogen. It is not a toy. Ayahuasca journeys are very transformative. They are very, people have been known to have very profound healing from ayahuasca, and so it's not a game. It's not something that you just go into for the sake of wanting to have fun or wanting to trip or wanting to get fucked up. If you're going into it with that mindset, yeah, don't do it. Ayahuasca is probably not for you if you're just looking to do those things. But if you're serious about your healing, if you're serious about analyzing your subconscious, then ayahuasca is definitely something that you should look into when you feel ready to do it. So yeah, I wanted to share with you guys my ayahuasca experience that happened just this past late April, and just put my story out there. I know there's a ton of ayahuasca experience stories, but hopefully you guys can get something out of mine if you are curious about it, or if you are kind of on the edge of whether you want to do it or not. So going ahead and jumping right in. So many years ago, when I first started my spiritual awakening, I had heard about ayahuasca, but that point in my life when it came to me, I wasn't ready to take it. I had done a lot of research. I had watched a lot of documentaries. I had watched a lot of YouTube videos, just like the one I'm recording right now, of different ayahuasca experiences. And I was like, wow, like I definitely know that I want to do this, like at some point in my life, but it just was not right at that moment. It wasn't my time to experience ayahuasca. And when you know, you just know. Like, you know when it's time and when it's not. So many years went by, and recently I had a friend reach out to me, and she said to me, hey, like, there's gonna be this ayahuasca or this medicine ceremony in Austin, and it's gonna be with familiar faces, very small, intimate group. I'd like for you to join. And it just seemed to come at the perfect moment in my life. Like, the medicine just kind of showed up in my life. And when she said these words to me, I just knew, like, it's time now. And so you'll feel it too when it's time. So I'm like, yeah, I'm definitely going to go to this ceremony. And when I decided in my mind that I was going to go, the synchronicity that followed leading up to the ceremony was insane. It was like the medicine was just kind of like opening up the path and leading me right to it. Like, there were no obstacles. Everything was very seamless at that moment of me deciding I'm going to do this ceremony. And so go to Austin with two other friends. All three of us were first timers with the medicine. We had never taken the medicine before. So all of us carpooled up to Austin, and fast forward to the day of the ceremony. So we get to the land. It was on this private land, very small, intimate group. I want to say it was maybe about 11, 12 people, somewhere around there. And so there were several different facilitators, and then there was the shaman. And the shaman had flown in from Colombia, and he works with the medicine quite often in Colombia, and he does a lot of ceremonies in Colombia for people. And this occasion was his first ceremony in America, in the States. And so it was very special. So we were asked to wear white and to just be ready for what was to come. And so I was under the impression that we were just going to be doing the yahe, the ayahuasca, but we ended up doing, there was like a pre-ceremony to the ceremony of the ayahuasca. So the shaman came, and he was very young, very young. I was surprised by how young he was. He had to be like early mid-30s, and that's not a bad thing, but I was just, I don't know why, I just had this like perception that he would be older, but very sweet, very kind heart. And very trusting right off of the bat. I was like, okay, I feel like you are the perfect person to lead this first ceremony for me with the medicine. We had to build a fire pit on the land because we were going to be out there all night. And we had tents and blankets and chairs and sleeping bags and pillows and all kinds of things. I'm recording. Sorry. And because we knew that we were going to be up there all night long. So, like I said, we were asked to wear white for the ceremony. So when you are in a medicine, when you're in the middle of your journey with ayahuasca, you're very open. Just like with mushrooms and other kind of psychedelics or hallucinogens, you're very open. That could lead you to be open to certain energies that are not good. So we were asked to wear white to just kind of protect the circle and to protect ourselves. So we get to the pre-ceremony, and the shaman is saying, okay, you guys, we're going to be doing, just to kind of prep the body and the mind to receive the ayahuasca, we're going to be doing mambe and yahe. And I know what hepe is. I've done hepe before, but I had no idea what mambe was. I didn't know what to expect. And so that made me a little bit nervous because, like I said, I kind of was under the impression that we were just going to be doing the ayahuasca. But then when I thought about it, it made sense that, you would do like a pre-ceremony leading up to the ayahuasca to prepare your mind and body for the medicine. And so I was just like, okay, we're going to be doing this pre-ceremony. And so basically we had a little bit of rest before gathering in the circle. We had some lemongrass tea just to kind of calm and relax ourselves. We all put on our white, we got our stuff, we set up the circle, and we were all sitting there ready to go. And so to kind of open up the pre-ceremony, we all went around and kind of set our intentions for the medicine and what we were wanting to get out of the ceremony. There was chanting and music. Mambe is raw coca leaves, and it was raw coca leaves mixed with the ash of another tree, I believe is what they said. So it was this, he had this bag, the shaman had this bag of this kind of thick green powder. It looked like crushed spirulina or something. It was this thick green powder. Because the circle was so small and intimate, he was able to walk around and serve each person individually, one-on-one, which I thought was really nice because typically in traditional ayahuasca ceremonies, you're looking at about 20 to 30 people in a circle. I really appreciated having that intimacy where he was kind of able to serve every person individually and kind of have that one-on-one with each person. And so there's the raw coca leaves, the powder, and then there is the tobacco paste. So with the tobacco paste, you're supposed to put it on the back of your teeth. I just let it sit there, and then you open the side of your cheek, and he puts the coca leaves in the side of your cheek, and you're just supposed to like hold it in your mouth and mix the two of them together slowly with your tongue and your saliva. You're not supposed to swallow the powder or the tobacco paste immediately. If you do, you could get really sick because it's very intense. So it's supposed to be kind of a slow mixing process. One of the gentlemen there, he accidentally swallowed the coca leaves, and he he had to leave the circle because he was purging almost immediately. So before we get any deeper into the story, I do want to add some notes that I kind of forgot here. So we did have an altar up. We had an altar placed on the land in the circle, and we had several different purge pits that people could go to. So purge pit for vomiting, and they were outside of the circle so that people could have privacy when they were purging and things like that. So yeah, one of the gentlemen accidentally swallowed the coca leaves, and he was not okay. He had to kind of step away from the circle for a little bit. A lot of people did not, their bodies didn't react well to the mambe, meaning that it's, I always find it hard to articulate the feeling, but you feel like you're kind of being lifted off of the ground. Like, it's a very intense head high. You just feel completely ungrounded. Like your whole body is tingling. And you just feel very just dizzy, and it's very disorienting. And if you were to take mambe and then try to walk or drive or anything, like, it would not be okay. And so a lot of people weren't responding very well to it, so they were vomiting, people were purging very early on. And for me, like, I had my bottle of water, and I had my black tourmaline, and I was just kind of rubbing it and trying to just, like, ground myself, like, trying to stay grounded, trying to, trying to remind myself to breathe, because the feeling was so intense. And so at one point I even had to, like, get out of my chair and, like, sit on the ground, on the earth, and just kind of, like, dig my hands into the earth, because I just felt like I just feel like I'm spinning. Like, I feel like I had spun 1,000 times, and then I just came to a sudden stop. Like, that's that's the best that I can kind of describe it. It was very intense. So yeah, I kind of held it in my mouth for about 10-15 minutes or so. The sensation lasted for about 10 minutes, and then I think I held it in my mouth for an extra 5 minutes after that, just to kind of, just until my body felt like it was ready to let it go. And then I left the circle, I went and I spat it out, and I just kept drinking my water, breathing, trying to remind myself to be, to ground myself and breathe, and everything like that. So very intense. First experience with mambe. And we had to kind of take a second, because a lot of people were still purging and still trying to, recuperate after the mambe. Hepe, like I said, I've done before. Hepe is basically a tobacco snuff. It's like a powder. It's another shamanic, sorry, tool, I guess you could call it, that indigenous peoples and shaman use. And it's a raw tobacco powder, and you just kind of, the way that you take it is you have this, like, wooden tube, or this wooden piece that has two prongs on it. So there's one long spout that goes into your nose, and then there's another long spout that goes into the person's mouth that is gonna blow the tobacco into your nose, straight into your nose. I've done hepe before with a close friend of mine who is a shaman, and so for me, it just makes me sneeze a lot. Like, I sneeze like 5 or 6 times, and then I'm good. Some people there were quite a few people actually who had never done hepe before, and so they did the hepe, and some people had to purge again, because it is very strong. Again, it gives you, like, a very brief head high. You feel a little dizzy and disoriented especially if it's your first time and you've never taken it before. And then there are also different levels of hepe. There are different kind of intensities, I guess you could say. I went and sat back down, and I was just, again, drinking my water, breathing, all of those things. We kind of gave that time to run its course and allow people to purge and all of that. And then we moved on to the ayahuasca, to the actual ceremony. So at this point, it's sundown. The sun is starting to set, which means that we were right on time because that was the intention, was to start when the sun was going down. The shaman did some chanting and he played guitar and did some music to the medicine, and all of us just kind of held up our hands and sent energy to the medicine, sent our intentions to the medicine for the night. Yeah, so this is where the story gets very interesting. He wanted the first timers to be served first. So there was maybe like 5 of us who had never done ayahuasca before. And so he wanted us to come up and receive the medicine first. And I think I was like the 3rd or 4th person to receive the medicine. And it was in this tiny little teacup, this tiny ceramic teacup. And very, very small. And I remember looking at it and thinking, wow, this must be really powerful and potent if he can serve it in a cup like that big. It was very small. I took the medicine and I was expecting a very strong, kind of gross taste, but it actually wasn't that bad. It just kind of tasted like a mild herbal tea. And so I was just like, oh, okay, that wasn't so bad. And so I went and I sat back down, and at this point, we have the fire pit going and the wind is blowing really hard, and so all of us were just kind of sitting there with our blankets and our chairs and stuff like that. And the circle had just become very quiet. Everyone was just kind of, I think a lot of people were nervous. The first timers were probably very nervous, but then you also had people that were just kind of focusing on their intention, preparing themselves for the experience. And so the circle just kind of had this very beautiful, eerie silence as everyone was receiving the medicine. And so I went and I sat back down and I had my blanket and I was just like, okay, here we go. Like, there's no going back now. And there were a couple of people after taking the first cup that purged a little bit. And so for me, I'm sitting there and 30 minutes goes by, 45 minutes goes by, an hour goes by, and I don't feel anything. But I wasn't sure if that was normal. I wasn't sure like how long the medicine is supposed to take before it kicks in, but I really wasn't feeling any different. So the shaman and the facilitator that was helping him, they were letting people know, like, hey, if you feel like you need more medicine, just come back up to the altar and we'll serve you more medicine. And the shaman actually approached me and he said, Sierra, do you feel like you need more medicine? And I said, yeah, I actually think that I do. And so we went back up to the altar together and he gave me a second cup. The second cup had a much more bitter taste. When I drank it, I just knew, like, okay, this is going to be the one that sends me into my journey. And so I go and I sit back down and I wait like 10 minutes and I'm sitting there with my blanket, and then I decided, okay, maybe I should lay down because then that way the medicine can travel. So I go and I lay outside, like right outside of the circle. We had this pallet for people in case they wanted to lay down. So I went and lay down, and this is where it gets really, really interesting. I essentially blacked out. I don't know what the fuck happened. I can't, like, I don't remember. All I remember is that I laid down, I was under the blanket because it was chilly outside, and I just blacked out. And I don't know how long I was out. I wasn't asleep. I just blacked out. And all of a sudden, I'm jolted awake because someone had tripped and fallen over me. And so I wake up and I come out from under the blanket and I'm just like, what the hell just happened? And I see this person in the fetal position next to me. And they rise up, they come out of the fetal position, and there's this brief moment of eye contact. And it's one of the people that I went to the ceremony with. But when we looked at each other, it was as if he didn't register that it was me, or that, I don't know, it was like he didn't know where he was or something. There was a disconnect there. And so he stood up and he kind of just stumbled away. And I was gonna like yell after him to make sure that he was okay, but then I realized, oh my God, like, he's in the middle of his journey right now. He doesn't know, like, he probably has, like, no idea what's going on. And so the shaman and the facilitator ended up catching up to him and, you know, assisting him and things like that. But upon being woken up or coming out of my blackout, I realized that I was also feeling very dizzy. And I was just laying there. I wasn't moving at all. And I just felt very dizzy. Like, again, like I had just like spun around 1,000 times. And so I'm just like, oh shit. Like, I think my medicine is coming on now. Like, I think I'm about to enter the tunnel. Like, it's go time. And so I go back under the blanket and I'm just like breathing and I'm like, okay. And I shit you not, you guys, that's when the voices came in. And these voices they just came into my consciousness. It was not me thinking to myself. They were very different, like if you know what I'm talking about, you'll understand. But it was like other streams of consciousness, other voices just dropping into my mind, my consciousness. And all of a sudden, I just kept hearing, we are here, we are here, we are here. They just kept saying it over and over again. And I just remember laying there and thinking to myself, what is this? Like, why do they keep saying that? Like, what is this? And so then a few minutes goes by and I'm laying there just kind of like, and I felt a little bit nauseous, just a teeny bit, not nearly enough to feel like I had to purge. And so I'm laying there and I'm just kind of, you know, trying to stabilize myself because I feel so dizzy. And the voice, like this strong male voice, comes into my consciousness and it says to me, Sierra, you need to get up right now and go to the purge pit. And I was just like my ego responded and I was just like, nah, I'm good. I'm not gonna purge. Like, I don't need to go to the purge pit. I'm good. I'm not even that, I don't even feel that nauseous. Like, just trying to like be a badass, right? And the voice said to me again, you need to get up right now and go to the purge pit. And I was just like, no, I don't even feel that bad. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm not gonna purge. But I was laying right next to someone else on the pallet, and the voice said to me, if you don't get up and go right now, you're gonna purge on this person's head. And I was like, no, I'm good. And I'm listening to the shaman play the guitar, and he's singing and chanting and all of this, and I'm just trying to find something else to focus on so I'm not so focused on how dizzy I feel. And so I'm trying to listen to the shaman play, and like this voice is telling me to go to the purge pit, and I'm like, no, I'm good, I don't need to go to the purge pit. And then all of a sudden, the shaman and the facilitator start drumming. And as soon as they started drumming, something about the deepness of the sound made me feel like I was gonna vomit. And so the voice was like, you better get up and go right now. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna get up and go now. So I get my blanket and I'm stumbling to the purge pit, and they had candles lighting the way. And I get to the purge pit, I get down on all fours, my head is hanging over the hole, and I'm just waiting. I'm just like, okay, like I'm here, just bring it on. And so I purge, and it wasn't a lot, but it was enough. Like, it was enough and I never get sick. I don't ever get sick. I don't ever vomit. And so I was very surprised that, like, I vomited, and I was just kind of like, oh, you know, like, I didn't even know what to think or to say. I was just kind of sitting there, just like, ooh, there's a fuzzy that flew into my face. I was just kind of sitting there like, I can't believe I just vomited. Like, and so I'm just giving myself time, you know, in case I need to vomit some more. So I'm just kind of hanging out over the purge pit hole. And the male voice comes back in again, and he says, you feel humbled now, don't you? And I was like, yeah, I do. Very, very humbling moment. after a little while, I got up and I walked back over to the pallet. I laid back down, and this was the part of the journey that I really didn't like. Because after I purged, very similar to when you trip on mushrooms, or yeah, to when you trip on mushrooms or any psychedelic and things like that, how people say that if you vomit, it intensifies what you're going through. I went and laid back down, y'all, and I was not okay. Like, I was laying there, and I felt like my body was seizing up. Like, I felt like my joints and my limbs were just locking up, and it was the most scary and uncomfortable feeling that I've ever felt in my life, and I did not like that part. And I just remember being under the blanket on the pallet and thinking to myself, I don't like this. I don't want to do this. And the voices, at this point, there were a lot of female voices coming in, and they were just saying to me, it's part of the medicine. Like, it's part of the medicine. You just have to go through it. You're okay. It's just part of the medicine. And they were kind of reassuring me. And I was just like, I don't like this. Like, I don't want to do this. So then, my heart was also beating very fast as well. And so not only did my body feel like I was like becoming paralyzed, but I felt like I was going to have a fucking heart attack or something. Like, I was just like, I don't know if this is normal. But I mean, I just continued to lay there. I didn't know if it was normal, but I didn't like ask anyone for help or anything. I was just like, well, if I die, it was God's will, I guess. I don't know. But that part was really scary. Yeah, the voices were just telling me like just move your body and you will see that you're okay. It's just the medicine. And so every now and then I would like move my hand, or I would move my leg, or just wiggle my toes or something, just to kind of reassure myself that I wasn't becoming paralyzed, because that's what it felt like. I'm not gonna share everything that the voices were saying to me. And if you've done mushrooms or DMT or ayahuasca or any of the hallucinogens or psychedelics or anything like that, you'll know that it can be very visual. It can be very auditory. The experience is different for everyone. For me, it was very auditory. I was hearing a lot of things. I was under the blanket and it was very dark. And so I was just hearing a bunch of voices talking to me. Again, I'm not going to share everything that we talked about, but I'll give you little bits and pieces. At one point, this female voice came in and said to me, just do what you want. And I was like, what? And she was like, just do what you want. And I was like, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Because I tend to be a people pleaser, and I'm always worried about what people think or what they're gonna say or whatever, and it kind of stops me from doing the things that I want to do or pursuing the things that I want. And so I was like, okay, duly noted. And then I had another voice come in and say to me, like, like, we try to help you with things, but you need to let go of some of your control. Like, you want too much control. You need to let us help you. You need to let go of some of that control. And I was just like, oh man, they're just like these voices were just like ripping into me, and they were just like, you this and this, Sierra, and oh, and don't forget this. And it was just, I don't know how long it went on, like, because time is just it doesn't exist when you're in your ayahuasca journey. So I don't know how long these voices were cutting into me, but they were like, and then they were just like giving me all, like, just ripping me a new asshole, basically. But it was very like, it was in like a loving, kind of fun loving way. It was like very similar to my personality, like very sassy but fun loving. Like, that's the way that they were communicating with me. So I didn't, like, it wasn't like this thing where I was like, like, taking it personally. Like, they were giving me tough love, but it wasn't like, it wasn't like hardcore. Yeah, just it was very interesting. It was very interesting. I wasn't so much focused on anything outside of the blanket. Like, I was under the blanket the whole time that I was on my journey. And that's pretty much where I stayed. I wasn't really worried about what was going on outside of the circle and things like that. Um, Whenever I tried to be in tune with the circle, to listen to the drumming or the chanting or anything like that, the voices were just like, bring it back. Like, we're talking to you. Like, you need to focus on us right now. And they were very, like, matter of fact, very blunt. Um, but yeah, like, you hear all kinds of things outside of the circle. Like, you hear people purging, you hear people talking to themselves, or, you know, chanting, or, you know, speaking in tongues. You hear people just kind of like humming, all kinds of things you hear in the circle. And so it's very interesting. Um, but it's all collective. Like, you know, you may hear something that is kind of like, is kind of concerning or maybe even scary, because there was one guy in the circle that was like hissing, and he was like speaking in some sort of like, I don't know if it was language or if it was gibberish, but he was speaking something and he was hissing. And I was under the blanket and I could hear him. And a little piece of me was like, okay, that's kind of concerning. But then another piece of me was like, okay, I get it though. Like, I understand. Like, I feel for him. So it's very strange. It's like this collectiveness. Like, you feel all of it in the circle. Um, and so yeah, like, the shaman and the facilitator, they were just walking around letting people know, like, hey, if you want to take a second, third, fourth, however many cup, like, you can, like, just let us know. And I remember asking the voices, like, should I take another cup? And they were like, no, you're good. And I was like, okay. So I only ended up taking 2 cups, but there were some people there that only took one. There was one gentleman there that took 5 cups of ayahuasca. 5. And the reason that he took 5 was because his body was rejecting the medicine. Every time he would take a cup, he would purge it within 5 to 10 minutes. And so, bless his heart, when I was talking to him the next morning, or the same morning technically, because it went into the early hours of the morning, he said to me, he was just like, yeah, like, I guess my body is like, I guess it's just not my time to receive the medicine. And I was very, like, I admired that he had that mindset about it. Like, he didn't see it as a failure. He just saw it as, you know, it's not his time. And sometimes that happens. Like, you know, you try to take the medicine, and if it's not your time, your body might reject it. And so that's what kind of happened to him. But yeah, basically later that morning, when everything was said and done, we all just kind of got together and ate a light breakfast and just cleaned up, and shared our journeys with each other. But ultimately, you know, it was a very intimate group and very beautiful people, and we all shared this experience together, and did a lot of like deep, profound healing work together. Um, and we chanted and sang and played drums together in the morning, just to kind of solidify the energy. Some of them were doing more mambe in the morning, and I was like, no, no mambe for me this morning. And so, yeah, it was a crazy experience. It was beautiful, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. I highly recommend ayahuasca for the internal seeker. I would highly recommend ayahuasca. Um, but you have to be serious about it. It has to be the right time in your life. It's not, like I said in the beginning of the video, it's not something to play games with. I think that's pretty much everything with the story. Well, let me just give you a little bit of insight as to life post ayahuasca. So funny enough, almost immediately after the ceremony, a lot of things started changing in my life. Um, I don't know exactly what I purged on an energetic level that night in the ceremony, but life post ayahuasca has been just like it's Like a lot of things have been kind of shifting and changing and coming and going, and it's like the medicine just kind of took my life and shook it so that all of the stagnant energy and everything could just kind of be shaken loose and let go of. That's the best way that I can describe it, but also I'm still kind of in the middle of it, so it's a little hard for me to explain right now. There's benefit, there's huge benefit to this medicine. And I would do it again in a heartbeat. I would do it right now if I could. I I highly, highly, highly recommend that people do ayahuasca seriously. If you're serious about it, I highly recommend that you do it at least once in your life, and see if your life and yourself don't change, because I guarantee you that they will. But yeah, that's basically my ayahuasca story, you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed and got something out of it. I enjoyed telling it. It's a crazy story and a crazy experience. And I know that some of you guys may watch this video and be doubtful. I don't really care. Yeah, I hope you guys got something out of this, and I will see you guys in my next video. Take care.